Hello and welcome to Lagos Parliament. I am Abimbola Agbebi. We begin with traffic management in Lagos State as the legislature granted approval for the ratification of concession agreements for the provision of traffic management to the state by Ortesia Traffic Solutions Limited. The request, which was made earlier in the year by the state governor, was part of plans to enforce sanity on Lagos roads.
A report of the Committee on Public-Private Partnership on request for ratification of the House on concession agreement for provision of traffic.
The day's plenary kicked off with a report presented by the House Committee on Public-Private Partnership. It's about the outcome of the legislative work done by the committee on a letter forwarded by the state governor seeking approval of the House for the concession agreement between the state and a private traffic management company. The move is geared towards managing the challenging traffic situation in the state, as well as introduce improved ways of enforcing sanity among motorists in the state.
The agreement is on public-private partnership for the of transport management system aimed at solving the traffic management challenges in the state. 3. All the relevant government agencies like the Ministry of Transport and Justice, as well as Office of PPP, have considered the project and of the opinion that a viable solution to effectively deal with the present traffic challenge in the state is to partner with a private company with the requisite technical capacity.
Section 26 of the Public-Private Partnership Law of Lagos State 2015 clearly spells out the powers of the House on ratification of concession agreements. It states that, as from the commencement of this law, any concession agreement to be entered into by the office must be presented before the House of Assembly for ratification before implementation.
The benefits anticipated from the project include free flow of traffic, issue enforcement operation through electronic device and gadget for capturing of violators, security of life of traffic officials and sanity of traffic management, employment opportunity as traffic will be managed by women, steady and increased revenue generation in line with the Eastern Transport Sector Reform Law. The project will be conducted with participation of all relevant agencies of the government for accountability. The Ministry of Justice and Transportation, as well as the PPP office, have been directed by the committee to comply with the Public-Private Partnership Law and other relevant laws.
To move that the report as presented by Honorable Lumo be adopted for debate.
Standing on this section of the PPP law, the House approved the agreement, having done its parts. There are plans to expand the provision of training for health workers in Lagos with the amendment of a bill that is being debated in the State House of Assembly. The bill, which is titled A Law to Repeal and Reenact the Lagos State College of Health Technology and for Connected Purposes, is a 54-section bill which recently went through a public hearing at the House. The COVID-19 pandemic gripped the world with devastating effects, overwhelming the health systems of most countries. Nigerian health sector was among the sectors that had its fair share as it struggles to meet the demands of the global burden placed on it. Several challenges have been reported within the health sector, especially in training, funding, employment and deployment of the workforce. The College of Health Technology Bill attempts to address some of these issues in the Lagos health sector. It is providing better training for workers in the health sector as one of the ways of meeting the public health demands in Lagos communities.
The Lagos State College of Health Technology and Connected Purposes Law, Cap 14 Laws of Lagos State 2015, that we are seeking to repeal and reenact today, is a very important bill that touches the existence and sustenance of the universe. Health is very critical to the lives of humans and animals alike.
A repeal of the extant law. And why are we repealing? The House of Assembly of any state is empowered to make laws. Aside from making laws, it has the power to amend laws. Aside from amending laws, it has the power to repeal extant laws that are found to be worthy of extensive amendment.
Chairman of the committee spoke further on the intent of the bill.
So I believe the institution already has a flurry of different categories and levels of education that they offer. But the new bill hopes to expand on what they offer. So they're offering lower diplomas, higher diplomas, postgraduate degrees. They're also offering what they call short courses and practical theoretical courses that ensure that the students get practical hands-on experience, which is very different to the theoretical experience they get sitting inside the class.
For the Deputy Speaker of the House, the essence of the amendment is to make the bill more effective.
The essence of the amendment is to make the institution more functional and to be in tandem with the needs of Lagos State. You will recall that public health has been a major issue. Of recent, you have Ebola, now you have COVID-19, and we are challenged, and there is need to develop that middle manpower technician for the state. Formerly, in the olden days, this technology always provides as well nurses, technologies that can manage or man the primary health facility across the nation.
The Lagos College of Technology Law is one of the extant laws of the state that is now being repealed and reenacted by the House of Assembly. Away from that story, let's take a quick look at some of the bills considered on the floor of the House this week. In the past, a victims-only succor under the criminal justice system of Lagos State was conviction or punishment of the offender. There was no other form of compensation for any loss suffered by the victim as a result of the crime, time and cost expended in ensuring that justice is served. This trend has discouraged victims from prosecuting or supporting the prosecution of criminals in the state.
A bill for a law to amend the Lagos State.
It is the reason members of the State House of Assembly are deliberating on a bill that seeks provision for the rights and entitlements of victims of crime, as well as protection of witnesses.
The bill is talking about the protection of victims and for compensation. Section 3 of that bill talks about the establishment of the Victims Assistance and Witnesses Protection Agency. While the Section 4 of that bill talks about the rights and entitlements of the victims And equally, the Section 5 talks about the power of the agency. All in all, it's just for us to be able to protect the victims and to come to their aids as at when due, and also to provide for the victims any assistance without any fear or hindrances of the victim.
If you look at what is happened all over the world, especially in Nigeria today and in Lagos State, issues are borders on victimization, issues are borders on abduction, kidnapping, and the likes. Basically, we lay credence to the fact that we need this law. Law that actually is supposed to protect the yearnings, aspirations of people. A lot of people in Lagos today are suffering from victimization. There are borders on other issues on kidnapping, abduction, and the likes. And for the past years, nobody has come to address and be able to compensate them and probably give them the right entitlement. Even for those that perpetuated such crimes, what has happened to them? This bill is very, very apt in terms of the fact that if some people suffered a loss through victimization, probably they lost their properties, probably the witness cannot be protected. This bill is talking about establishment of an agency that will look into that. And part of the function of the agency is basically to be able to secure the rights and privileges of those that suffered such victimization. Mr. Speaker, the bill talks about giving back to humanity in terms of dignity, in terms of treatment, in terms of equity, in terms of justice, and in terms of protection of their lives and property, in tandem with Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution, National Constitution as amended. This bill is for everybody, it's for the poor, it's for the less privileged who are seeking justice. A lot of people in Lagos have suffered a lot of victimization. A lot of them, their property has been seized. A lot of them, they are still not coming to terms with the fact that they are human beings and they're supposed to be treated. My colleagues, I will want to seek your support at ensuring that this bill is given all the necessary attention and support so that it can scale through this stage. The bill is very apt. As you all know, the bill is coming to strengthen the criminal jurisprudence of the state. You all know that the criminal law of Lagos State does not specify some certain things that the bill expresses. So if this bill eventually comes into law, it will further strengthening the law of the state. And criminal jurisprudence everywhere in the world is a domestic affairs. I will only, if eventually committed to committee, I will only urge the committee to put side by side with the criminal law of the state so that there won't be a conflict of interpretation and interest on the case.
With the way we've been having it in Nigeria before that, when you have an accident on the road, somebody will not be there to help. This is a bill that has provided for every citizen of this state in way of compensation, in way of welfareism, in case of even victim privacy protection is taken care in this house.
This bill is very, very important and essential, especially at this level of our development. Any bill that will support or encourage fundamental human rights is a bill that we must always support. And in this particular case, this bill is out to protect the interests of average, even the common man, when it has to do with the issues mentioned in this bill. The area that I also want to emphasize is that because of the importance of this bill, members of the board must be subjected to the approval of this House, which is not especially stated in this bill. I think that is very important too.
I will start by saying that this bill is responsive. It is responsive because over time there has been clamor for lawyers in the criminal section of justice advocating that justice should not only be for the society, because criminal jurisprudence claims justice for the society. Where crime is prosecuted, it is prosecuted for the safety of the society. The victim most times is left empty-handed. And that is why people have been clamoring that if there's justice for the society, there must be justice for the victim. Mr. Speaker, up till this moment, when people have accidents, and they get to, or in case of emergency, they are hardly attended to by our hospitals unless there's police report. But this bill is trying to go over that to say that you can attend to such victim, and of course, the bill for such can be recouped from a fund that is created by this, because this bill is creating victims' rights and witness protection fund, where people who are indigent and cannot cater for their bills in court under such conditions will be attended to, and such will be offset on their behalf. It's a very good bill that should enjoy the favor of the House in terms of speedy consideration.
For the Speaker of the House, criminals no longer have hiding place with the provisions of the bill.
It is a bill that has come to aid our administration of criminal justice, as rightly being observed by the majority leader, where protection is being given to the witness. And most times, criminals get away with crime just because no one is willing to come outside to witness against them. But this bill has come to give assurance to be witness that such person will do with the support from the government and with protection, that such person can come out and stand to give evidence against whosoever that happens to have committed crime. And in the same vein, protection of victims. Most times when justice has been served, the victims most times are left with nothing. And I think this bill has come to patch up that hole where anybody that suffers either, particularly when you talk about our traffic system in Lagos State and the form of transportation, most of motorists, what they do is to have third party only. And that third party at times does not work. Doesn't work. And the victim most times bears the brunt. And I think this bill will address that, where protection for such person, either on traffic matter and another related issue, can be well compensated, and those who are in position to give witness can also come out boldly, and by doing this, it will ensure eradication of crime within our society. So I quite agree with all of you that there is a bill that we should all give necessary support. On this note, this bill is hereby committed to ask Committee on Judiciary to report back in 2 weeks.
The lawmakers also amended the Lagos State Pension Reform Law, which is expected to make life easier for pensioners through unfettered access to their retirement benefit.
This bill is just an amendment on the pension bill of Lagos State that has been in existence since 2015. And there are key areas that the amendment are really addressing, which has to do in conformity with the National Pension Act.
Mr. Speaker, I see as very key to this bill two major things. One is solving the seemingly overlap functions between the Lagos State LASPEC, Lagos State Pensions Commission, and the Federal Pension Commission. But the most important thing mentioned by the chairman, Mr. Speaker, is that up and until now, a certificate of clearance is required from the day of retirement, 21 days from retirement. That means that after your retirement, that's when you would now, the issue of certificate of clearance must be released. But in this case, because of the technicality attached to the issue of the certificate being very cumbersome to get, it is now said that the certificate will no more apply. What we now need is letter, instead of certificate, has been with the letter of clearance, and that must be 21 days before retirement. You can start to produce processing 21 days before retirement, so that at your retirement, you might have gotten your letter of clearance, and that will aid the process of your pension being processed. Mr. Speaker, this is another responsive approach of Lagos State in solving societal problems for the welfare of the citizen, in that a lot of pensioners complain here and there, they cannot access their pension so easily. So the Lagos State government has looked into what are these technical issues, encumbering easy access to pension. And coming up with this, it is believed that if we are able to sort this through legislation, the process and procedure for accessing pensions, gratuity and the rest of it will be very easy. And of course, the pensioners can continue to smile from now.
The two bills have been committed to appropriate committees of the House to report back in 2 weeks. For more insight on the intent of the bill that seeks protection for the rights of victims in the state, let's join the Chairman House Committee on Judiciary.
The bill seeks to protect the victims and at the same time try as much as possible to find a way around the compensation for the. You see, it's part of the fundamental rights as enshrined in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, the obligations of the government to the masses to make a law to ameliorate the suffering of the general masses. Just as the one that is enshrined in Chapter 2, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which can be enforced by any individuals. But in this case, when you look at the way and manner we treat or we are treating victims of different issues. For instance, some people have an accident. For you to pick them to the hospital will become problem. For them to treat them in the hospital will become problem. Some people, maybe due to armed robbery, they have gunshots. And if they don't have police report, they will not be treated. So, and a lot of people have lost their life in these circumstances. Some are victims of rape. So many vices. So, in order to strengthen the administration of criminal justice of Lagos State, the governor and the House of Assembly has deemed it fit to look for a way to start compensating the victims so that they will not just go empty-handed. That's the intent of that bill. When you look at the section 1, talks about the interpretation of the bill, and the section 3 talks about the establishment of the agency, and the section 4 talks about the function, and the function that we are talking about is in itself.
Meanwhile, on the pension reform bill, a public hearing was held on Friday, the 11th of June, where opinions of members of the society were sought on the issues the bill is out to address. We'll bring you details of that committee event next week.